don't think Obama will be voted a second term.
Are you senators?
One of the reasons I voted for Obama was his talk about wanting to be more bipartisan and reaching across party lines. I think it's been more divisive. When I went into traveling with Purple States and looking at all of the candidates, I went in with an open mind. Originally, I had always voted Democrat, and I wanted to listen to what every candidate had to say. I had the opportunity to ask John McCain a question about the low-income tax credit, and when I asked, he automatically assumed that I was someone who was a recipient.
I would be glad to do anything I could to help lower-income Americans.
And I was a little bit offended by his assumption. I've always looked at myself as middle class. I am a 5th grade public education teacher. My husband has not been getting a lot of work. He's a self-employed subcontractor in construction. And we've been having to sometimes depend on my income, and it's nowhere near enough. Myself and people who voted for Obama tend to want to help rebuild that middle class. We can't just have rich and then lower class poor people. I've always looked at the Republican Party as the rich, helping the rich. And it seems like the more Obama tries to reach across party lines, the more they, try to separate themselves. And I don't think Congress is allowing him to do what he had set out to do originally.
I don't see what things mean as bad as they are, is that we're going to rise up out of this in the next 2 years. I could be wrong, but
they're not allowing him to do so much.
And it's not his fault. He got handed a bill of, just a bag of trash.
And sometimes it seems like politics are separated by race. We do have an African American in the White House, and I think that's a wonderful thing. But I think that since he's been elected, there have been a lot more attacks on race. I don't think there's any candidate in South Carolina who is focusing on changing race relations. I think South Carolina is going to always be the good old South Carolina state that it's always been. We didn't want to go to a church that was so divided by race. A lot of times the focus was white against black. And I went to a church, I think on Mother's Day, and when it started talking about one race versus the other, it disappointed me. I just really didn't want to be a part of that. A coworker of mine invited me to her church, and I visited. And at first I was a little bit reluctant because it was a predominantly white church, and I didn't want to feel out of place. It was very welcoming, and it was very open to other races. My favorite part of Purple State Season 1 was discussing our views and realizing that people can have different views and still get along. And if people in government could see that, I've not seen an ad that didn't have a personal attack, as opposed to people trying to come together and make the country a place where everybody can be successful.
Thank you. Good to
Mr.
see you.
Senator, I have a question.